Aaron's here.
Great. Good afternoon. Welcome to Glens Falls Board of Public Safety. It's 4 o'clock, Wednesday, November 9th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first item on our number 2, so call the meeting as number 1. Chip, we got to change that because I'm already, looks like I'm skipping over things there. So resolution 2 is a resolution to approve the minutes of the October 12th, 2022 meeting of the Board of Public Safety. Do we have a resolution?
I'll move that.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? God bless you.
God bless you.
That's right. Resolution 3 is to approve resolution 2 anyway. Resolution to approve the first annual Glens Falls Collaborative Christmas Parade to be held on December 2nd, 2022 from 5:30 p.m. to 6:15 p.m. Parade vehicles will stage at the YMCA parking lot and depart south, traveling on Glen Street, ending up from across from City Park on Maple Street near TD Bank, where Mayor Collins and Santa will officiate the annual Christmas tree lighting. There will be a GFPD car in the lead of this event, and it's expected to draw roughly 500 people. This is an application from the Glens Falls Collaborative. Does anybody have any questions or discussions about the event? I think we should be pretty safe with the
We all
police chief.
set?
All set. I mean, y'all have anything, we'll be there.
Sounds
Make
like
a
fun.
motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 4 is a resolution to retroactively approve the Abraham Wing School 2022 Halloween Trunk or Treat event that was held on October 28th at the school on Orchard Street from 3:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. A portion of the Orchard Street was closed off for this event from school property ending on Lawrence Street. Also, this event was pre-approved on short notice, and hence it's been made clear to the event planner in 2023 that they'll need to provide proper and timely notice as stipulated by the City of Glens Falls. Application is attached. Do we have a resolution to approve this retroactively?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're trying to write out an entire procedural process for these events and the time, and then we'll just have to work throughout, let everybody who say run events in the past and try to share it with them and see and try to establish some cadence to this, because we're getting an awful lot of 3 weeks before, and I know that was a problem maybe 10 years ago when I was on the Board of Public
Yeah.
Safety, and we had to deny a few, and then all of a sudden people started paying attention. And we did get some griping, and hopefully we won't have to do that. We'll raise awareness of it. But right now what I'll do is I'll let you know and bring back the procedure along with the application, maybe an updated application for you to all review at the next Common Council, or at next Board of Public Safety meeting, okay? Can you make a note of that for me, for us? Okay, so 5 is new business. 1 is A is a discussion of possible safety issue that was brought up to be brought up by 4th Ward Councilman Ben Lapham on behalf of Mark Levac and Elizabeth Miller concerning traffic cutting through the intersection at Park and Elm Street on Hudson Avenue without adequate traffic control. Ben, turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, I was actually walking over there yesterday, and there were cars zipping through over towards the hospital.
There weren't?
They were.
There were.
So I was initially kind of like, I don't really see this happening over there, and then I almost got hit by one last minute.
Yeah, it's all right. I was cutting across from the parking lot, the TD Bank parking lot, and I was looking up at Rob Gerard putting up the street lights in the park, and I almost got hit myself. Anyway, I gotta start wearing brighter colored
So
suits.
I think they were looking for, some kind of crosswalk across there, or,
Right.
some kind of traffic slowing.
Is this by the surgery center there?
No, it's
Are
in
you talking
the
about-
other corner. So the
Yeah.
corner by where the pizza shop is now, if you go, what they're saying is that because of the increased traffic, we all agree that Glens Falls downtown is a hopping place and getting more traffic. And so that people that, let's say if you're coming up the Glen Street Hill by the Civic Center, and you see that there's quite a bit of traffic in the roundabout, and you're thinking of heading over onto Hudson Avenue, that you turn left quick at that intersection right across the street from Burger King. So you turn left onto Park, and then you'd come to the first corner there on Elm, and you'd turn left on Elm and to hop right back on, say, and again a quick left,
You mean right on?
Yeah.
right on Elm, sorry.
Down
Yeah.
Park and then
Yeah.
a little bit.
Left onto Park,
School.
right onto Elm, left onto Hudson as a way to get through and to stay away from the traffic circle is what I believe Elizabeth Miller, and you agree, Ben, that that's
Yeah.
the intersection we're talking
Yeah,
about?
that seems like it's the intersection.
I saw people doing it in both directions today.
Yeah,
Same way when you're on Hudson, if it's backed up to the intersection, you go down. And
Gotcha.
as for traffic calming, Mrs. Miller's contractor is offering a lot of traffic calming now by parking trucks and vehicles all along the north side of Park Street. But once those are gone, that street will become an even more desirable thoroughfare.
So I didn't know that parking, on the street is considered in any way like calming. Wouldn't that make it a little
Well,
more
it has
dangerous?
that
or you just
effect by
thinking-
narrowing the
Yeah.
street.
Oh,
it
okay.
is, you know, if you put like, parking spaces on both sides of the street and shorten up the,
Certainly make it more dangerous, but he's saying if it's open, it's even more
Well,
appealing
it's
maybe to the
appealing to
guy.
drive fast.
Gotcha.
People go
Okay.
faster if it's
All
open.
right, so both more dangerous and potentially, more dangerous if there's a lot of cars on there, but even when there's not, they might drive faster because it's empty.
more open,
Yeah,
higher-
and I agree that.
You'll have
they're
higher
there
leth-
almost every-
lethality.
Let me just ask you, I've done this myself, I make a left to avoid the circle when things are backed up,
Mhm.
to cut through to get out to Hudson. What is it we're gonna do here?
look at things for traffic calming or putting crosswalks for pedestrians. So
There's
they
a
don't get hit
pedestrian,
by cars.
Okay, but there's a pedestrian sign on Glen. When you're
Okay.
trying to make that turn off Glen onto Park. Am I
I,
right?
Yes.
I'm not talking about. Glen.
I understand that, but I'm just,
Just trying to understand and give an example.
I'm getting, I'm trying to get there and figure out, what are we gonna do here?
Right.
Exactly.
Well, this is the Board of Public Safety, so I brought this up as a safety issue.
All right.
That
Yeah.
is what, you know,
Okay.
Let us
your
discuss it.
concern is.
Yeah, so, this actually, if I could take just a moment detour. I was speaking to Lieutenant Madison, about, a conversation we'd had about different intersections that we had, and he was able to print out for me the now federal manual, and you'll see I made a copy for all of you and handed it out. So maybe I could let you all take a look at this and then come to the next council meeting, and maybe you could consider what you think would be appropriate based on the federal guidelines, and that we could then move forward and consider what your thoughts are. I mean, it's an option anyway. I didn't know, it's been so long since I've been on the Board of Public Safety, I forgot this existed. So it's certainly something you could consider, whether it be a crosswalk on Elm Street maybe, or across, I don't know if it would be appropriate to, you wouldn't put a crosswalk on Park, wouldn't help. Aaron, do you have any thoughts about this? You're a traffic expert.
Not specifically to the site that you are discussing, but I
Yeah.
can tell you that my committee today approved our program solicitation for the upcoming state fiscal year.
Yeah,
That will be taking effect in April. So what you will be receiving tomorrow, personally as the mayor, will be an announcement of our program call for projects, if you will, for the upcoming year.
Okay.
I know I have a letter from you on file requesting pedestrian improvement analyses for a couple of other locations that
Yeah.
I suggested would be better off for the next program year. That's still in effect.
Great.
But I don't know how this aligns with your timetable, but if this board were to come back having consulted the materials that you distributed and identified some locations within the city that could stand to benefit from the type of analysis that Tom and I are about to discuss that we had done at the chief's request in
fantastic.
Sanford, those opportunities will be available to the city next year. We can't afford everything. I know you've got a couple of other things that you're thinking about approaching the council with. We'll need to prioritize those and see where everything fits. But the deadline for that call for projects, I'd like to have those back for my committee's consideration on the 14th. So I'd be looking to get those back by Monday the 12th. I don't know if your next
That-
meeting,
boy, that's a
we
quick
give a
turnaround.
month turnaround time. That doesn't allow a whole lot of committee process, but.
Oh, wait, not the 12th of
December.
November, the 12th of
Did I say November?
December.
I meant December.
No, you didn't say any month,
No,
but
you
I
did
was,
not.
I was
You
a
did
little
not say
worried
Yes,
that you needed
December-
it back by
December 12th.
Tuesday.
A month-
All
yeah,
right.
a month turnaround time.
All right, that would be great.
We don't get that much time.
Yeah, that would give these guys 2 weeks to
It's
let them tell
great.
what they're gonna do. But yeah,
All right.
that, you know, those types of potentially smaller scale, what can you do with signing, striping, signalization, traffic control, operation, with an eye on safety, that would be our principal focus. We're not terribly so concerned about efficiency.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily concern ourselves with trying to greenlight every piece of moving traffic through town. We'd rather have a balanced, multimodal approach. So,
Okay.
again, if you have candidates that come from your committee discussions that you'd like to bring forward to us, you'll be receiving that announcement tomorrow.
Candidates, you mean areas that we'd like to.
Candidate project
we've got
locations, right?
Project locations.
Specific
Yeah,
sites like the one Ben has raised or others.
okay,
Again, we'll
Okay.
ask for a prioritization.
yeah. Can you tell me in, how many you did for us, say, a few years ago, and how many you did for us this year? So, like, how many's too many to ask for, or?
Well, that's the tricky thing, is I have no idea how much money I have. And I won't know that until the state tells me, and that I'm expecting within the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
So I try not to let that impede the
Right.
call for projects. We want to know what's out there regardless of how much we have, and then we'll
Oh.
figure out how constrained our resources are. But, you
so
know,
just prioritize them,
Barton and Judas has done this one for Glens, Sanford, and Grant that we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Mhm.
They also got into Bay in Washington not too long ago. Now, you're not the only municipality we work for.
No,
So I've got 3 or 4 of these smaller scale, if you will, consulting projects going right now. We've got one in the town of Horicon. Most of them are pedestrian centered. I can tell you that there's a limit on the amount each individual project can cost me, which is $20,000. So anything larger than that, if you were to request that as a project, which you're welcome to do, it may not fit within our term agreement with Barton and Judas. We have another one with Creighton Manning and a third with CHA. If I have to go out for an individual contract or an RFP process, I could do that, but we would need some justification on the level of effort.
sure, okay. And just last year, I mean, I am familiar with 3. Did you do 3 for us last year, this past year? One you're about to talk to us about?
Creighton Manning is also working on Maple Street, like the conceptual bicycling improvements for the repaving job.
Right,
So that's another one.
2,
We've got this one,
yeah,
that's 3.
3.
There were 2 more, I'm sorry, Washington, Glen,
They come forward and identify themselves.
Sherman.
That's the one we had mentioned.
Okay, and then the other one was South.
Pat, you want to
Bay.
come forward and identify yourself for the crowd? I'm
One
sorry.
minute. Let me make sure my tie is up though before I get on camera. What?
There's one the same problem.
No, right, yes. Well, there were, okay.
So, go ahead.
Yes, the last project was a review of Bay, South, and Glen.
Okay,
And also,
Washington.
Glen, Washington, and Sherman.
okay,
So those 2 were both done. This was another one that was done.
3,
And then you
4.
said there was one more.
think,
The Maple Street bike improvements.
Maple Street bike
and
improvements,
another
right,
consultant,
right.
And the 4th not being here, so we've got several of these
Okay.
going or recently
yeah.
completed.
So that gives me an idea at least of what you've.
Right, one request from one municipality will not mutually exclude another one.
Okay.
We should have the ability to, or the capacity rather, to entertain multiple requests.
Fantastic.
We do want them prioritized from you, so we're
Yeah.
not second guessing what your priorities are, and hopefully we can take those in turn.
Awesome.
And work on what's the most important thing to the city.
Okay, well, hey, thank you.
Again, you'll see that tomorrow,
That's
and
great.
you'll have about a month to respond to that.
Awesome. So, I think, can I ask you guys to take a look at this and familiarize yourself with it? And think specifically of the Elm,
Intersection.
Yeah, Park, sorry, the Elm Park, intersection and what your thoughts are. And then we can also, depending on, how much or little there is debate about that, right? If you all agree that this is the best thing to do, then we can just quickly do it. If there's concern we'd like to ask for a study, then we can add it to the list.
I might add, again, Mayor, that the chief of police,
Yes, oh yeah,
you
he's,
should try to let us know what you think, chief, of that section there, when you get a chance. Thanks.
thank you, yes. And
Whether
then-
it's an enforcement issue, I don't know.
I think most of it is like, it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit there, but it's a very short run. So it seems like the traffic's going very fast. It can be kind of out of control seeming. So that's why I was suggesting traffic calming features. Because I think it's gonna be like Chief would look at it and go like, it's probably in the speed limit, but it's also, you could feel like it's a little bit out of control.
Okay,
Like a lot of places in Glens Falls where it's like, it's not really over 30 miles an hour and that's what the speed limit is, but.
Remember, I can't control that with a sign.
Yeah,
I do know.
yeah, that's what I
I know.
take from it too.
I know.
And I know you know.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's great. And then also, let me just ask if there is any intersections that you can remember from the last several months, or even ones that you want to pull out again. If you just send me an email, I'll take a look, and I know Ben will, and I'll ask the council too, if there's particularly a set of, if there are any intersections that seem like of grave concern. I know we've identified the one was South and Hudson.
Yeah,
So I'll compile a list and we can get them to Aaron and I'll prioritize them and I'll bring them to the next Board of Public Safety with what I think the priority should be, but then you guys can tell me, no, I think this should be 3 or this should be 1. I'll just give you something to start with, okay? If we review that list at the next Board of Public Safety, it'll be in time to get the response to Aaron in time, okay?
I like it.
Isn't this great? So, I mean, it just to remind us when we're making these decisions, what they were, I wanted to make sure you all had your own copy, and I got a 3-ring binder with it, so, yeah.
I just handed them out though. I couldn't take care of it.
It's
I handed them out.
Lieutenant Madison who helped me as having a conversation about what we were thinking about, so it was great. Okay? So we'll just table that for now until we can look at some options, okay? And B is mutual uniform traffic control devices.
Which is what you have in front of you.
Oh, right, so, there you go. So there you go. Old business. So we have a follow-up on student pickup and drop-off at Grant Avenue and Austin Street as a potential danger brought up by Fourth Ward Fourth Ward Councilman Ben Lapham. Excuse me, sir.
I'm the council member that brings up all the safety stuff. Anyway, I went over for the 3 p.m. dismissal after, so I was talking to one of the teachers over at the middle school and at a meeting some time ago, and they said that the time that's really rough for them is the pickup time and the dismissal time, and the dismissal time being particularly so because that's a hard moment versus the drop-off time might be spread out a little bit more. So I went over there at 3 p.m. and I saw about 40+ cars stacked up before any of the kids were coming out. And they were on both sides of the street. There are leaves out in the street too, 'cause it's during leaf pickup, so that kind of diverted traffic a little bit too. And people driving in through there are driving pretty, like, still not 30 miles an hour, but at a way that makes you feel unsafe with kids walking across the thing.
Is it the
And-
middle, I'm sorry to
Yes,
interrupt
middle
you, but
school.
is it the middle schoolers who go that way?
Yep.
Okay.
They're being asked to go out that way by the school in order
Okay.
to kind of break up some of the spots where they are releasing students.
And,
So,
and middle school for Glens Falls, I'm sorry to keep
Yeah.
interrupting you, but
It's okay.
I'm hoping to add to the context to it. The age of our middle schoolers in Glens Falls, so
Fifth
fifth,
grade, fifth to eighth,
fifth to eighth, so
12,
12 to 15?
10. What was it, 10 to 13?
There we go, 10 to 13-year-olds. Thank you.
I thought
That's
it was
why,
good.
that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. So 10 to 13-year-olds are headed that way. Go ahead.
yeah, so there was one of the teachers was dressed, so this was just before Halloween, it was on the 27th that I went, and was dressed up as a pylon, which I thought that was pretty funny. And she was helping them across the road, and you could see that it was helpful. There were some of the kids waiting back for her, you know, and
Okay.
so I could see an argument for it, and I think one of the things is that by the time it was 3:13, it was basically over with, and then I saw a police car come by, because I knew that you had police coming over, and that shift change is like right at 3 o'clock. And that's the tough part for the police, is that at the time that this dismissal's happening, is when the shift change is happening, so it's hard to see it as it's happening.
Gotcha. Chief, thoughts?
Well, I sent an officer over there, to be there right after shift change, because I was assuming that based off the calendar of the school, that it was 3:05 dismissal, so by the time I got there, they'd be able to observe the traffic flow and the pedestrian crossings. So, and that was, I did one in the morning, I did one in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So it could vary from time, days of the week, I suppose. Well, as to how many people are parking there, how many kids are, coming out.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice day, so there might have been more kids walking home than would be on a rainy day.
Right.
So,
Could
So I can do another, I can send some more officers out there.
adjust the schedule a little bit so they're in earlier and take a look at the whole day,
Just to
make
see
the
what
count.
kind of more numbers we have.
do you want me to go out and do a count of like kids that I see or something like that too? I don't know what's helpful for.
Maybe, but it-
Okay.
So,
Mr.
yes, sorry.
I don't necessarily need to turn this into the Aaron Trail, but I just wanted to inform you that we have been in contact with Glens Falls School District. Superintendent's office has contacted my office to inquire about the possibility of revisiting a 2012 vintage school district circulation study that we had done for the campus. At that time, they had just identified that scheme of traffic control on Quaid with the cones and the series of one-way operations based on all lefts and all rights. And they were looking at that time for a professional engineering opinion about as to whether or not that was valid. Was that a serviceable thing that they had come up with? And the basic finding at the time was that yes, it was. They had also, we had hired a consulting firm at that time to identify all sorts of other stuff like possible new driveways and some of the green spaces and those types of things, none of which were ever implemented, not necessarily wrongfully so. Those things are kind of disruptive. There were some operational changes recommended, including reversing parking on Sherman and some other things that didn't happen. What I had indicated to the school superintendent was similar to the work program solicitation that we're conducting tomorrow. That's part of that. That would be an eligible activity for us to revisit. But despite the fact that it would be the school district's concept, I need that request to come from the chief elected official. So I believe they plan on contacting you and having a discussion.
I have a meeting with the superintendent next week,
Okay,
so
then
maybe that's
that might be an
on
element
the
of conversation
agenda.
that you could
Yeah,
expect.
sure, I can definitely. What's it called again? That you called it something.
The original plan,
Yeah,
the circulations of the school.
circulation.
Glens Falls School District Circulation Study, I believe, is what we
Circulation study.
termed that.
It's on the website.
Who's the cities or the
It's on their
schools?
website, Yeah.
It should be on my website, I just don't know if you're referring to anyone else's. I often go to my own website to find my own stuff,
Yeah.
so I do hold it there. And
Okay.
again,
And even though so that if the city, if I sign off on that, would that count as on our list or their list or both?
nobody has a distinct list, it would be on the list.
On
I
the
need-
list.
I need projects on the list to come from the chief elected official.
Gotcha, okay.
I can't be responsive to, for example, like, if the common council member were to come to me and say, hey, do this, and it doesn't necessarily have your buy-in, I can't get
Gotcha.
into that kind of situation. That's why
Okay.
I need to have it come from me.
Awesome, okay.
So, there's no distinct, you get this
Makes
much money,
sense.
you get
No,
that much
no,
money. We'll divvy it up the best we can, but yes, it'll be on your list of priorities.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you. I was trying to see if it was separate lists, so anyway, I
So
get-
sometimes we
sneak
get away
one
with it.
extra in
No,
there.
no.
So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I will definitely bring that up. Yes,
May I ask a question, please?
yeah.
Is, who would the discussion involve staggering release times? High school,
Well, the
middle
school,
school?
yeah,
There should, I think that that's a key point, that the school releases the children onto Quaid, all children onto Quaid, and do a staggered release time. High school, if they go earlier, middle school later. Eliminate this Grant Avenue thing. That's a nightmare. That's just a path out to the road. There is no pavement, nothing. It is a path.
Sure. This is all new to me, so I will, I can bring it up with the superintendent. I don't know. I know that our budget is not the school district's budget. I know that many people are confused about that. I know that we provide some police support and a resource officer to the school district, and they pay for that support. I know we work very well with the school, but I don't have any more details. So let me have a conversation and see what direction that turns. I don't know if I have any influence, but I certainly worth having a conversation to understand of that.
Because the traffic pattern has been established already and works very well with the high school, that traffic pattern that's been established over there. Why reinvent the wheel?
I would say that the traffic pattern has issues too with Quaid, with people driving through the barricade through there.
That's an enforcement issue then.
Well, is it? You know, like if
What
it's,
are they doing, driving through the barricade?
yeah, people are.
Where the cones are?
Parents who are dropping off and picking up their kids
No,
are
but I
driving
mean, like-
through the barricade.
Through the cones,
Yeah,
knocking over the cones?
moving the cones and then driving through.
That's an enforcement.
It is an enforcement issue.
So, and I know we work with the school on that. And can you tell me, in the circulation study, do you make recommendations of traffic patterns, or do you just note, do you just study the area and give data?
At that time, yes, there was a tremendous amount of data collection
Yeah.
done as far as traffic counts and all sorts of fancy stuff. I don't know how much of that fancy stuff you actually need, you know. Again, it's a walking school district. You want to encourage pedestrian activity to be happening.
Uh-huh.
You don't necessarily want vehicles to take over. So personally, I don't care if there's X hundred vehicles going through a certain intersection at the peak hour. That's something that you don't give priority to. That's something you want to control, whether it be through a circulation pattern or, you know, traffic control devices or those types of things.
Right.
So at the time, the effort was focused primarily on validating the circulation scheme that the school had come up with at that point.
They had.
That was their idea, and our operations consultants came in and took a look at that and said, is this a good idea or could we do better? And at the time was, nah, this works. You know,
Gotcha.
this is a workable thing. Now, as the observation was made, there's been some compliance issues out there. I heard the same things in talking to the school district, that people are disregarding the cones and pulling in there and then backing out. And I've heard some tales of some near incidents. I don't, that's anecdotal, but
Gotcha.
maybe that's correctable with more robust hardware. That was one of the recommendations in the original plan. Now, this is awfully fancy, and I'm not advocating for it, but the first plan called for activated gates, like some time-based deployment where these metal things would come shooting across the road. Well, not shooting, but something a little bit more permanent than some easily displaced cones, for example. Stuff like that obviously costs money. I believe this time around, there may be an interest in revisiting the circulation.
Gotcha,
Can't
yeah.
say that for certain. But
Good.
again, we found it to be workable in 2012. I don't know what type of operational analysis would be required to find it to be unworkable or to come up with another deployment possibility, but that's potentially within our scope of work if we were asked.
They said, when I had the meeting, there was a child who was hit on Quaid last year, and that a teacher was hit by a car, not injured, but run into this year.
Okay,
So I'm just saying, this is what I had in these conversations.
great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We will definitely talk to superintendent about updating the circulation study. Sorry. I knew I was gonna struggle with that. There we go. Fantastic. And Chief, can you, Ben, you're gonna do a couple days and tell us the numbers you're
Yeah,
finding of
I can just kind
how
of-
many kids are crossing? You got a counter, like
Yeah, I got
like a
it.
mall counter, traffic counter? All right. So if that's the case, then Chief, then we'll take Ben's, instead of paying somebody to come in early, we'll just take Ben's input. Ben, whenever you do, I'm meeting with the superintendent, I didn't know about this particular thing, but if you give it to me by Tuesday, I'd certainly include it.
Yeah.
If not, we can get
I
it
can
to
do that
after.
Monday
I said, I
after.
got 2 more days of school.
Yeah, I said no Friday.
All right. Oh, right.
Yeah, so I could get Monday, maybe I can get a day.
Awesome. Well, and if you can't, it doesn't, we've already
Yeah.
got some, at least anecdotal evidence that it's a
Yeah.
concern, and like you said, Aaron, you think that there's interest in it, and so maybe that's all we need to do is just say we'd like to do this again and put it on the list.
Yeah, but we
We
need,
may-
needs your backing.
And it also would give us a chance to look at that particular thing and from that data as opposed to the Board of Public Safety says we can't believe you're using that path, right? It'd be better to let the state
I
study.
think the staggered release times makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, me too, but I'd rather the study make that suggestion rather
Yeah.
than the municipality if we could do it, so, okay, yes, go ahead.
Chief Smith, could we ask to have an officer over there tomorrow morning, Friday obviously closed, but to see if you observe, if any of our officers observe anything tomorrow, Monday?
Just the morning.
Let you know.
So-
If there's movement of cones, or I'm sure there won't be with a police officer sitting here, but,
You have
We
John
have
Norton.
our SRO.
You have an SRO guy already there.
right.
If you'd ask him to take a look for us.
Have John do it.
And he'll probably have more information as well.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let's see, Aaron, I don't have you on the agenda, I don't think. Can we have you present?
We are,
Where do we,
the traffic study, I think, is part of
Where-
Chief Smith's report.
Chief Smith's report, traffic studies. There we go. All right, so we'll call up Chief Smith for your report.
This is. Yeah, they got a guy there.
Okay, so, under new business, I had, one of our crossing guards has indicated, he's actually bought some signs for himself, at Quaid and Sherman. Basically just signs that indicate, use crosswalk only, for the children. He didn't realize that I had to go through the board of public safety in order to get those signs put up. He's purchased them himself, and I'm just requesting that I've looked at the signs, they meet all the regulations. It's just, will be 4 signs to be placed on the stop signs so the children can see, they're in big letters, cross and crosswalk only. That's what he's asking for. So we would just need your approval for that, and DPW install them real quickly.
How much are the signs?
They were $30, I think, a piece.
He does a great job.
He really does.
Yeah, he really,
So,
he's a good man. And he waits and he moves them
Yeah.
to the crosswalk, okay? You know, so,
So he's thinking just a visual for the children to be able
yeah,
to
and
see.
he's a great
Because what
guy.
he's indicated is
Yeah.
some of them will cross before they get to the crosswalk, so, you know, after or whatever direction they wanna go. So he's thinking that just a few signs may help, you know,
calm that.
visually move them across the crosswalk only.
Great.
And would the DPW put them on a movable sign for them, or a movable stand, or are you talking about putting them
I think,
in the?
I think they'd be able to just, mount them to the stop sign,
Oh,
That
okay,
works, Yeah.
great,
Yeah,
bolt them to
it's
the
a great
stop sign.
idea.
okay. So do we have a motion to approve $120 for 4 signs?
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They also asked, I followed up with Aaron, to come in to discuss, further the intersection of, Glen Street, Stanford Street, and the Grant Ave study, that we had tabled last week. You also asked me last meeting to, look up the number of accidents at Cooper Street and Maple. And in the last 7 years, we've had 1, which is where we're,
So that's where we were concerned about.
the stop sign and the
Stop sign.
crosswalk.
So did we approve a sign?
You did not.
We-
We just moved the sign a little bit.
Is that what
We were gonna
Well, we
move the
discussed a
sign.
lot of things, but I think we ended with
Oh,
you
I know what
and
we
just
did.
researching.
Caution, oncoming
Oncoming
traffic or
traffic.
something.
We were moving the stop
Remember
sign. Up.
I don't know which one.
It was
Well, we didn't, that's what let me help you, I believe I remember correctly, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong. We had a lot of conversation about a few different options, and then we waited, and asked Chief to look at how many accidents we've had at that intersection, and that's all we've done. And it's 1. Can I ask you to add, that corner to your list and to look at this and see if you wanna come back with any recommendations at our
We're
next?
talking about Cooper and Maple?
Cooper
There was a
Maple.
resolution.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was
Yes.
to-
Look at that.
To move the stop
The sign
sign.
located at the end of Cooper Street where it meets Maple Street further
Oh.
south as
I
allowed.
didn't hear, what was it again?
So it's to move the stop sign further
Okay.
towards Maple
Yeah.
and move the line up
And then
to
we'll use the stop
adjacent
sign
with the
too.
stop
Yeah, the line they were
sign.
gonna paint on the
Yep,
road.
that was the resolution. And then also adding a caution oncoming traffic sign at the end of Cooper Street at Maple.
Well, I mean, just moving it, doesn't
In
matter.
town, each road should
Okay.
have that, yeah.
So when the, help me to understand process, we've made that resolution. Does the council, that's not changing any law? So can that simply go from our resolution to DPW to get implemented? All right, so
Yeah.
I will put it on the to-do list, okay?
And like I
Yes,
said,
good
in the
job,
last 7
Emily's
years,
right.
there's been 1 accident there.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, chief.
I
Yeah,
think it was also like the corner is supposed to be no parking.
From
No, because it's
15
already
feet.
there, I believe, because I believe it was
Yeah.
already
Sign.
there.
Because
Yeah.
there are people that park there when there's.
But I think there's already a no parking
So
there
that
is,
might be
there.
so
an
enforcement.
Yeah.
That's true,
Yeah.
yeah.
Agreed, especially on those Thursdays.
Yeah.
Because they'll park all along that and in my driveway.
I
Your
thought
driveway.
that,
And, well, I rent that corner building,
That's right.
my shop, and so I'll go in on Thursdays and they'll park there.
You put tickets?
Yeah.
Just one.
excuse me, I'm sorry, Chief. I believe that we passed a resolution to put no parking on the east side of Cooper at ASCO Electric's request. That was a while back.
It was a
Maybe
while
a
back.
little.
That was a while back.
Because they
And
wanted some space.
They want their trucks to be able to come in and get around there and Do you
That was a-
remember that, Mike?
oh, yeah.
We passed that resolution, so I don't
Within the
know.
Why
last
would we
roughly
do-
year?
You mean,
It was last year, I believe.
So
could you say
look it
the
up?
east side of Cooper?
It was the east side.
Why would they want it on the east side? The
We-
So
building?
the
we talked
tractor
about both
trailers can
sides of
swing
the
around to get in and out.
Tractor trailers
of
come
Vasco
in and
Electric.
out of Vasco. And we talked about both sides, but
Okay,
I know we talked
Okay.
about parking on
And no
that.
parking sign.
to
Because
make that turn, yeah, okay.
So I'll
Ask.
ask the clerk's office to look for that resolution, and then I'll ask DPW to make sure we've got the appropriate signage up to
Thank
meet
you.
that resolution and the one just passed. And then we'll,
And you said how, when do you think it was? Like, was it last year, this year?
last year, it wasn't, I don't, no, it was not this year. It was
Okay,
maybe last
so
year.
2021
This is a while
possibly.
I'm gonna
Last
ask
year.
you on Thursday nights to
Yeah.
next
Okay,
year.
I'll find it.
Thank you.
During the food truck corral to send some people.
There's
out.
always been an issue with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
So I have, Aaron is here to discuss the study.
Let me introduce Tom Baird from Martin Judas. That is the consulting engineering firm that worked to formulate the analysis and recommendations. I understand that you guys were presented with the materials already, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Tom and I can speak to the contents and the recommendations of the plan. If there's an ultra-piercing, highly specific traffic engineering-based question, we may have to refer that one back to staff and follow up with you guys. But we're here to basically have a generalized conversation, and hopefully at the end of that, looking for your consent that AGFTC, the sponsoring entity for the study, may release this for a period of public comment as required by my processes for a period of 14 days before we consider this accepted.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for from you guys today. Hopefully we have presented you with enough information to act upon that basic request, but if not, we're happy to take any questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Sure.
And
Hold on one second.
Yes.
So I just want to understand that process again.
Okay.
So you're presenting that study to us, this study to us, and then we accept or deny, is that what you're saying? Yeah, so you just want to be in front of the
Yeah.
camera. Yeah. So,
Pardon me.
is that right? Am I saying that right, Aaron? So
we are, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're gonna have a general conversation with us.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, do we accept or deny? Do we need a motion?
We're not looking for necessarily formal final approval of a finished document from you this evening,
Right.
but just general concurrence that we can release this for public comment.
Okay,
At which point, we were happy to entertain any concurrent committee or staff review along with that,
Yeah.
along with us making it available to the public just on our website with the
Yeah.
generalized announcement on our social media. And then 14 days, maybe you guys can come back and formally approve it if you need to, whatever your process dictates.
and then when that's done, you've made some recommendations?
We have a number of different
I
alternative,
know,
various
alternatives.
stages
Yes,
of implementation of different
I'm
items.
sorry, I can't.
Yes, that's okay. Mayor, excuse me, last month, I made mention, I had studied it, and I have since studied it. and
Okay.
My own personal view is, I think that the least expensive and the smartest thing, easiest thing to do is to adjust the timing of those lights to match what we have on Sherman, Glen, and Washington.
I think it was
One-
your last one.
One thing goes at a time.
The opposed phases.
They
Yes.
go in stages. If you want to have a point where all are red, all lights are red for 60 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever, to vary to give, especially during the school time crossing. I myself think that's a good idea. I have no problem with the intersection of Glen, Washington, and Sherman. You wait. It's easier than waiting through several green lights to turn
Yep.
north from Grant onto Glen, which many people do when school is out.
So, for the benefit of the other committee members who may not be immediately familiar, that is a recommendation that was included
I
in the
know,
study.
Yeah.
it's the last one, I think.
It's pretty
They're
close.
not necessarily- they're not necessarily
Wait, Tamara, I just
No,
wanted to,
yeah,
let's
no.
have them make the presentation,
Yep,
let's have
I
a
just
discussion
didn't know
about
if
the
it would
findings.
save
No,
you
I
anything.
documented-
We got to the end of the story first, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Well, just my recommendation.
No,
I
it's-
didn't know
it's
if it would
good,
save
Oh,
you
I
time.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta, go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me here tonight. Really quick, brief, we put video cameras out on both sides of the intersection for 48 hours. A lot of the things you already know, we saw a lot of crossings at the inappropriate time, crossing not with the flow of traffic with the green light. We saw some diagonal crossings. A lot of people, when they're making left from, say, Glen onto Sanford, going around in the parking lanes, all the things you typically would see. We had one bus stop in that 48-hour period. The buses went by on schedule, but it would only stop one time. That was a question that came up this morning at the AGFTC meeting. So what we did, we looked at the signal controller. The signal controller is a limiting factor in this intersection. It's an old one. We can add a few things to it, like actuation, so that the timing of the lights would be coordinated with the amount of traffic that's there. You can have the timing change, and if there's nobody waiting, they won't get the green light. So it would move traffic around a little bit more efficiently. That left turn from Glens southbound onto Sanford, that's about 15 seconds. We may not need all that time anymore, but that could also possibly be actuated with cameras. But to get into a very integrated system, we have to upgrade the signal. That controller is limited by its ability.
Okay.
So having an all pedestrian phase 2, we also looked at, would really tie traffic up a lot. That's where the actuation would come in, where you'd have a shorter system. There are systems right now that the camera will see the pedestrian crossing, and if they're slow, it actually adds a little bit more time for them to cross. If they're booking it across, they're not there, it takes some of the time away, and you can program it to do that. So that is the extent of our recommendations. Go from a couple of signs for a few $1,000s, crosswalks to be repainted a little bit brighter, to about $60,000 to put in some actuation, some detection, so the signal can be smarter. That's about what that costs. But a full-blown one that can do anything you want is in the $260,000 range. Prices of things have gone up a lot.
Is that 200,000 when she's?
No,
No.
no, the basic timing, as I understood the study, the basic timing concept, which would have that intersection operate like Sherman and Washington with opposed east-west one at a time, can be accomplished by a modification to the existing control.
Okay.
That's not a $60,000 project, that's a city electrician getting into the box and reconfiguring the operations.
Yeah,
That might
redoing
make
the
it
timing,
even more
yes.
expensive.
Yeah, if you just redid the timing to fix timing, that's basically very low cost or nothing. If we wanted to have a smarter
What do you
signal.
think about that?
I think it's definitely worth doing because it's an improvement. It's not going to solve the entire problem, but it's going to make it a little better. If you combine that with a few of the signs, get the crosswalks repainted. Those are good stages, and all the prices are in here, so you can piecemeal it together almost.
It will add delay, it will add additional, because you're not running Sanford and Grant at the same time, you need to clear them both, so you're adding seconds to the signal cycle, so that'll cause more stacking on the Glen Street northbound and Glen Street southbound approaches. Again, if that's not a big priority, if that's not, and it wasn't what we were looking at this intersection, we weren't looking at vehicle efficiency, we were looking for how to make things potentially safer and get more clearance for pets, then that's a consequence you may be worth living with.
So as it sits right now, on June 7th, we had 11 times traffic on southbound Glen was backed up to the next intersection. Okay, it was 11:30 in the morning, 101, 120, 234, 253, 306, and I can go on. But it went all the way on into 3:30 were very heavy back up, and 4:15 very heavy. Northbound once that day at 4:41 was backed up with several hundred feet with a large queue of cars. So if we did retime a little bit, that would get a little bit exasperated, and those instances could occur a little bit more. So it's really a balance. You can really improve the signal with the moderate upgrades of the actuation and detection, or we can try the timing out, see how it works. We can try to get funding, different programs to maybe get the traffic signal replaced or upgraded. But there's really a lot of different options. It depends on how much is to be invested at the time.
These aren't commandments, these aren't thou shalt do this. Again, what Tom is suggesting here and what you have conveyed your support for is potentially a very low-cost improvement that you may find to be worth trying. You know, if it doesn't work, you can put it back and explore other options.
I have a question for Chief. What's the duration of the crossing guards' time at that intersection in the morning and the afternoon?
And I have that.
An hour?
About an hour?
Yeah, 45 minutes, 7:45
We
to
scheduled
8:30.
them for an hour.
1 hour?
Yeah. We had 45 minutes, I think.
When we had a middle school there, where the BOCES Learning and Teaching Center is now, when it was a real middle school and had a lot of traffic on Glen Street, they timed the lights so everything stayed red for a brief period. So everybody had to stop and give the kids a chance to cross. I don't know how long it was, maybe half a minute. Enough to generate complaints, but it let the kids get across the street, and it was just using the same old equipment.
Yeah, and that could be done, because it is a timed signal right now.
Yeah.
The traffic backups with the current volumes, though, would be much, much greater.
I think we abandoned that
Mhm.
when they built the new middle school.
Yeah, the all red phase was, or at least, I guess, yeah. that was
Exclusive pedestrian.
And that was suggested early on, very similar to what you had, what apparently had been there in the past, which was no vehicles are moving. You can cross the intersection in any direction for a certain amount of time. Apparently, there are some limitations with, again, the increase in volume that may have been experienced out there, the demand, and to do it properly, as I understand it, to have like full control and information in all directions, that kind of thing is gonna require a new signal controller, based upon their analysis. But we're very much in favor of looking at the idea. I believe it's the technology limitations that may have ruled it out, despite the fact that it sounds like it might have been in place before.
It was just a dumb light. I mean, you'd sit there in the middle of the night.
That's the thing. Maybe that's the timing limitation, is that you can introduce that all red phase in.
Yeah.
But maybe if it's firing at 2 o'clock in the morning when nobody's out walking around, then
Yeah.
you've got driver frustration, you got people running the lights. And,
We are a safety board.
right.
And the school kids are our priority
Yeah.
here. I don't, how many times do we all stop at a light when no one's at either of the intersection? What do we
A
do?
lot.
Well,
We wait.
and so I've got some good news. We've put some money in DPW's budget to replace traffic signals, a couple a year until we can get them all replaced. They all need to be replaced. We have a department right now that is using old antiquated
Antiquated.
long day.
Antiquated.
And so, and as a result, we have an entire storeroom full of broken traffic signals so that we can steal from Peter and pay from Paul when it breaks down, right? Because you can't get the parts for the old traffic signals that we have. So we already have a plan to do some of that. So we might be able to take both of the findings in the study and slow down the traffic and increase the complaints or whatever we need to do for the immediate safety. And we could maybe move this street up as one of the intersections where, when we're replacing the lights, we do this one sooner than others because of the concern of it, because we know we're going to. So what I'll do is I'll share these findings with the DPW superintendent, and we can look at that. I want to make sure too, like, I know we're looking at buying more, and we've got in the budget again, I think, for a couple of them. And it's like a 5-year plan of replacing all of them, which is what I asked the DPW superintendent to do for us. But I'm not sure that what he was looking to upgrade to would be able to do. So I want to make sure, I don't want to commit to anything. Let me come back to you in the next Board of Public Safety meeting and report out to you what I can find out. We certainly can slow down this light and make this safer to begin. All right, and then let me find out about replacing that timer. I just want to, I don't know that the one that we have that he's thinking of upgrading would be able to do this change, right? Because I don't understand the technology, but if not, maybe we need to.
I just wanna, like, getting back to changing the light timing.
Yeah?
We had that issue where.
You didn't know how.
Yeah, so.
Okay. So that's all, it's another, it's right there, and I am addressing that anyway in those meetings, because we need to know what we're doing. So I'm 100% with you.
If there's
Yes.
any follow-up that's needed between your staff and these guys, I'll put you in
Oh,
touch,
there-
because
there
I don't have those answers either, but they do.
Okay.
There would definitely be, and matter of fact, so once I introduce the study to them, then I gotta have a plan to how we're doing it, and it goes right along with that education. So I'm with you.
I have
Thank
two
you.
questions.
Yes.
First, we have no idea what you're talking about, you and you.
It's
And
from a
second,
previous meeting.
second,
Yeah.
So everybody heard it,
Yeah.
who's in here.
So-
This was on Broad Street where Hudson diverges from.
Right.
The timing for the
Oh, the crosswalk.
pedestrian.
Yeah, that was last month.
Is,
Timing's
it's going,
off.
it's safe to walk right now, green light smash into
no.
the pedestrian.
I was here for that.
And so.
You said
Rach-
there was a grant that's possibly available for the red lights, were you saying? There was a grant available, I thought I heard.
Looking at, there's lots of funding out there, and it's part of our job to try to find it.
Okay.
It's tough,
I just
but-
thought I'd follow up on that.
We have a recurring periodic call for projects, similar to what I had said for the planning project. This is on the capital side, so this would allow for physical replacement of a signal, for example, if you wanted to go that route. There's about $1.5 million in it, and it's specifically targeted for bicycle and pedestrian improvement specific projects only. So those aren't competing with the typical highway and bridge repair projects that are eating up most of our capital budget. That only comes around about once every 5 years. We do put that, we pretty actively solicit for candidate projects. Mayor's office will obviously be informed of that when it happens. I believe we're looking at a federal fiscal 24-25 solicitation for that, so calendar year 2025 basically, but not until then.
Okay.
There are other periodic funding sources that come along. There are state administered solicitations like Transportation Alternatives Program, bundled in with Safe Routes to School, which this would be a very compelling candidate potentially for that program.
Okay.
Those are outside of my release control. I don't know when they're coming. The governor might, but I don't. So those roll around about once every 2 years. Those are regional solicitations, which make it necessary to compete with projects, say, from Albany or Colony or something. So those get a little bit more heated, a little harder to get. The bike ped set aside that I mentioned earlier, the every 5 year solicitation, that's a locally controlled solicitation with local project selection.
Okay.
My committees, who are made up of people like the mayor, weigh in on who gets that money.
Okay.
So that's a much more likely funding scenario, but much more limited in its occurrence.
Thank you.
But there are opportunities.
Yeah, and as far as upgrading the signals, a lot of the equipment that likely is what they're thinking of is adaptable. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there right now. We've got a program for Putnam County we're working with them that's completely done by cameras, and everything's actuated, and it's from a control center. That's a little up there, but the units are usually adaptable to be able to handle it. If so, in the future, you can still build upon what you have too. So
Right.
that's we want to make sure that you're flexible for the future.
Sure.
And that cost difference is very minor to be able to be adaptable. So there's a lot of options, and we can definitely help you with that.
Great,
So.
thank you. You wouldn't mind meeting with us, talk about those,
Oh,
exploring
absolutely.
those options, right?
I'll bring in 2 other guys, Pete, you'll meet him, he's the guru with this.
Awesome, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well, we certainly
Thank
have an
you.
aging system that's perfect timing
Yeah.
for us to get this and to look for that and stuff, so,
You're very
Good
welcome.
job.
yes, thank you.
I have one more question for Chief Smith. Have you had any intersections where you've had 2 crossing guards?
2 crossing guards?
Yeah. Is there any reason why that we couldn't? I talked to the crossing guard there, and you mentioned it also, the kids are going diagonally across that intersection because it's disjointed, at least as
It is
Yeah.
disjointed.
at a temporary solution, maybe. 4 reds, two traffic guards, crossing guards. But not
It's just a matter of
For reds.
funding them and hiring them.
really.
All red. Big ones.
I was just curious if two was out of the question for some reason,
For a
or,
full-time crossing guard, it's $5,200 a year.
Okay.
All right.
Lot of options. Well, at least a
Full
couple of
time?
options.
my full-time is 40 hours.
No,
Okay,
they're considered full-time because they work.
2 hours a day?
They work the morning and the afternoon.
Split shifts,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Not full-time, no.
Okay, gotcha.
That
I'm
position,
learning.
full-time for that position.
Correct.
Correct.
And just in addition, you had asked me the number of accidents at this intersection that we're talking about. So I went back 7 years as well. At the intersection of Grant and Glen, there were 18 accidents in those 7 years, 4 injury accidents, and no pedestrians were injured within that's the 7-year time period. We've had 4 accidents there this year with 1 injury. Sanford and Glen, which is the other side, 21 accidents, 7 injuries, no pedestrian accidents there.
Sanford and Glen, 21 accidents.
It's crazy.
So
Was that seasonal, chief? Did that have
I didn't
anything-
break it down that far. Most of them are June, August, July.
Okay,
Doesn't appear to be seasonal. No.
okay.
Would that mean, would those 21 accidents be on Glen at the stoplight?
It depends. The way the system breaks it down is it's just an intersection. So if they're coming off of Sanford Street onto Glen, that's Sanford and Glen. If they're coming off of Grant onto Glen, it's Grant and Glen.
Yeah, one of the big things we saw in the video is when you're trying to make a left onto Sanford and a left onto Glen, and the way the intersection is set up, it creates blind spots. And people don't know who's gonna go first, and it's hard to overlap the cars.
Yeah.
Then they're going in the parking areas around, and that's, I know the study won't necessarily show that, but we saw a lot of that on the video. So, an actuated signal, improved timing, and all that would alleviate most of that.
We have the traffic, they're not actually nose to nose.
Yeah, right.
They're,
Right.
they're
Right.
kind of staggered a
They're
little bit.
overlapping.
So
That's-
if you're going west on Sanford to turn left onto Glen, you have no idea what oncoming, some people use blinker lights, some people don't. You know, it's kind of a hairy, I go through there every day, at least once a day, and it's kind of a crazy.
My poor son has a permit, and we were just coming through that intersection the other day, and he cannot figure out why the guy in the opposing left went first on the green light when all he wanted to do was go straight through the intersection. I was like, those are the kind of mistakes you make when you're not sure what the other driver's gonna do.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
So if I could bring this back, is this draft suitable for you guys to let us put it out for any public comment that we get and report back to you on what we might collect?
Yeah, I thought it was very thorough,
Yeah,
very thorough.
Yeah.
good job.
All right, great, thank you. We'll release it for public comment. I'll send the comments in writing back to you, Mayor, if we get
Okay, yes.
anything. And again, it's entirely up to you guys. If you want to adopt it or do whatever municipal action you want to take on it, our committee would just look to call this complete pending the resolution of the public comment period and some concurrence from you that it's completed to your satisfaction.
Gotcha, sure.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Do it.
Do you
Thanks,
have a
Aaron.
motion
Tom.
to accept the report as presented?
I move we accept it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So there's that, and then start, and do you, when we take action, because we clearly are gonna address this intersection, so would you like to know so that you can?
Oh, certainly, yeah, we'd
know
always
what was-
like to be made aware of any positive outcomes that come from our planning studies. That's usually not the case, so.
Oh, really? Okay, well.
Well, we usually do really expensive stuff.
And so
So,
that,
signal timings and pavement, striping and signs, those are all great low-cost alternatives for you guys to consider.
Absolutely.
That's not gonna require,
Gotcha.
$2 million.
so sometimes you don't get, because they go, oh my God, we love the study, but we
Sticker
can't
shock.
afford the two.
I'm not spending $1.5 million on that, I know, you asked for a recommendation.
You did ask, yeah, okay, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys, appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
Chief, is there any more to your report
No, I was requesting going to the executive session.
when we're all done? Great, thank you, sir. Chief Schrammel, your report, please, sir.
Actually, I only got one item, and it's actually kind of an old business item.
Okay.
It's the Central Avenue fence complaint.
John's gonna tap
I was
dance.
gonna bring it up. I said, no, they're tired of hearing me bring it up
Well,
under old business.
I did some research, I had our new codes guy run some reports and figure out what's going on with that. I could only find one violation that was ever written, and it was written in December of 2021.
That was the first one.
There's been nothing done since.
Nothing since then.
So even though you made the statement there was something done
Well,
in the spring, it didn't occur, so,
I was unaware that Will had left,
yeah.
Will
So
Celeste had left.
Yeah, so, I have yet to, get any movement on it. Like I said, I just had him run a report a few weeks ago. I found out what was done. It hasn't gone to court, hasn't been even scheduled to go to court, and there hasn't been a second violation. So the first step would be a second violation, and maybe knock on the door again and talk to the gentleman to see if we can move.
Violations for the same placement of the fence,
Yeah,
correct?
you give the same violation.
Yes,
How
yeah.
many times do we give it out?
Two.
Twice,
Oh,
yeah.
twice, okay.
Yeah, and then you'd go to, then you can go to court. Then you refer them to court.
We're probably not gonna have anything done this winter.
Well, I mean.
Let's do the second violation.
Yep.
And-
Let's see, we can go
And we
and
have
talk
new
to
codes
judge.
officials, so,
Yep.
let's do and this one is good about knocking on doors and talking to people, which I think is the best course of action anyways, rather than issuing violations. I'll talk to him and see if we can knock on some doors first and see if we can get it taken care of that way. That would be the preferable way, and if we can't, then we'll have to do the other. But, I think we'll try that first, because we don't know what's been done in the past, and we don't know what conversations have been had, because the codes people aren't there right now. So that's the easiest way to do it, is I'm gonna treat it as a new case and see if I can meet with our codes officer and see if we can get it started at the beginning, and hopefully we'll get it done in a general manner.
I can't express how much I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks,
This is
Chief.
my first meeting.
We have a motion to accept the
This is
chief's
yours.
report. Chief
Make a
Schramm,
motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Then a motion to accept Chief Smith's report.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then,
Yeah, I know, I know.
and finally, we'll,
Where's it, where's it?
let's see, would somebody like to make a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Move over.
Second.
Oh, thank
Whenever we
you.
need to.
And I think we'll end the meeting now, and then,
You wanna bring- we can bring
would
Rob
Tammy,
outside.
would you be willing to come out?
Tambry and Mike will,
Mike.
or whomever, yeah, we'll do it.
All of the above.
All the above, we'll do it.
Same
I was
motions.
gonna go by-
Thank you
We'll
very
make it
much.
easy for
Let's
you.
cut it, Peter. Thank you,
Ditto,
everybody.
ditto, ditto.
Public.